Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Politics Live. I'm your host, Dr. James Dula, and today we are fortunate to have as our guest host Mr. Kent Robeson. Welcome, Mr. Robeson. In addition, this program is being produced by Crystal and Tara, the best producers of radio that I've run into in the last 20 years. Well, they're the first two, as a matter of fact. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about why you should vote. We're going to talk about voter suppression, and we're going to incorporate history as we move forward to prove our points. Because voting is very important if you want your views expressed, if you want your people to be in office. And I've often heard that if you don't vote, then that gives energy to the person you don't want in office. But then we want to sit back and complain. Well, nonetheless, I receive telephone calls from people across the nation talking about why don't we vote and what can we do to change the trend. 20% of voting power in an election just doesn't really cut it. We need to get those numbers up. And we'll be talking a little bit about the history that got us to where we're at and how we should move forward. And we have some very special guests with us today as well. But when we look back and we see where we've been and we envision where we'd like to go, our voting power is very important. We've heard many, many sayings throughout the years that if you don't vote, don't complain. I heard President Obama say, don't complain, vote. And I've heard other people say, if you sit home on the sofa and you watch the world pass you by, then you get what you get. And that's why we have this program, Let's Talk Politics Live, because this is going to be the beginning of a movement I hope you will join as we take a look at voting across the table. Look at our opponents and say, is this the person I want in office? If not, go out and vote for the person of your choice. Let's go back just a little bit. We have fought wars for the right to vote. As a matter of fact, the right to vote it should not be taken for granted. It's not a privilege. It's a right that has been earned. And I can tell you this, we have fought wars from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War. We've fought individual wars, whether it be a Supreme Court cases like Brown versus the Board of Education, the Voting Rights Act of 1964, 65, and others that have been on a small scale, but they impacted who we are. They impacted how we were gentrified, the districts we lived in, and the number of jelly beans we had to guess in a jar. Violence toward people of color, if they even dared to think about going to vote, loss of jobs, small battles. But when we look at our history, we have to teach our children that the right to vote is not something that we should take for granted. I think it was Dr. Martin Luther King who said that Christians are supposed to be society's thermostat. And that means that that the Christians should be setting the morals and the spiritual temperature of our nation. Now, he said that in 1963 as he sat in the Birmingham jail fighting for your rights to vote, for your rights to be included in the integration of this country, equal rights. So if Dr. King could put his life on the line so that people of color would have rights and all people would see the value, then I think that on election day, it's up to us to go out and continue to fulfill the wishes of Dr. King, our King, who marched and led and gave his life at 39 years old to ensure that we had opportunities of equal rights and equal justice. But yet we have those that dare sit on the sofa on election day and say, let someone else vote. And then we ask what happened when our candidate did not win. It happens in Maryland. We are a huge majority Democratic state. But for the past two elections, we have sat home and let others elect Republican governor. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I really am not going to take a side here, because I think we've done pretty good in Maryland, because we have a great General Assembly with great leaders on both sides of the aisle. But at the same time, did your choice get in? And so that's something we will have to talk about in the next segment of this story, because I want to go back and connect the dots. I mentioned the Revolutionary War. Many people do not know what that is. I mentioned how it moved forward to the Civil War. And I mentioned Brown versus the Board of Education. And I'll talk about those a little bit more, because I think these are very, very important milestones that people need to know about and make sure that they teach it to their children, because how we vote in 2022 is going to have an impact on our children and their children, their future. So you may sit home and be happy. You've got air conditioning, you've got heat. You may be comfortable, nice car in the driveway, nice job. But think about your children. What are you leaving them behind? Think about the future of their children. And let's come back and talk about that after our break. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Is a visual production company focused on making its clients' visions visible. They provide graphic design, photography, video production, and live streaming. These days, they are looking to work with clients that have vision for their project. Let OG Media take your vision to your audience. Visit their website at www.ogmediaproductions.com and follow them on IG at TeamOGMP. They're passionate about putting their skills and innovation to work for you.
Are you looking for a safe, supportive environment that will encourage and empower your child to reach their full potential, especially during this pandemic? UNI DMV provides enriching out-of-school support services and activities that build academic and social skills for 7 to 18-year-olds residing in the District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia communities. UNI DMV has been mentoring the youth since August 2010. For information on upcoming events and programs, visit us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/UNIDMV.
To turn it over to our co-host, Mr. Kent Robertson. Kent, welcome aboard again. So nice to see you. We've been in the trenches together for quite a few years now. I'm the original OG. And and people know that I'm a Du Boisian, and my job is to make sure that I prepare others to continue the work that I have began. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, as you are now ascending to take the throne that I'm more than willing to pass over to a young and bright, intelligent person like you. Take it on.
No, I appreciate that, Dr. Dula, and greetings to everyone. It's so great to be here with Let's Talk Politics. I'm grateful for our producers as well as Dr. Dula for this invitation. To Mr. Bailey in his absence, we're praying that he continues to feel better. One, I just want to say thank you once again for this opportunity, just to share with you all that I am, as you see, a candidate for school board. Before that, and currently, I serve as the chair for the Prince George's County Democratic Party. And in that role, as Dr. Dula has shared, our goal and our role is to ensure that individuals are registered to vote, that they do vote, and that they know who they're voting for and what they're voting on. And so as we prepare for this upcoming election, which is November 8th, polls will be open in Maryland from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We to ensure that you're registered to vote. If you're not, please feel free to reach out to me and we can get you registered to vote. There's also early voting that takes place, if you don't mind me sharing, Dr. Dula, from October 27th to November 3rd. Once again, those hours for the polls are 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can go to any early voting location within your county and you should receive a ballot. Now in Maryland, we also have the opportunity where you can mail in your ballot. You can do it from home. So if you have not already requested your mail-in ballot, you can still do so by going to either the Maryland Board of Elections website or Prince George's County Board of Elections website. And there you can request your ballot to be mailed to you, and you can drop it off at any Dropbox location. I do want to share that during the primary, which was in June, we did have an uptick in individuals who mailed in ballot. There's actually a larger percentage that actually voted by mail-in ballot than actually in person. Is about split even, actually. And so I think we'll continue to see that rise in the individuals that do mail-in ballots, and we're grateful to see the engagement. But one thing that I do want to point out that I learned from the Board of Elections is that we did not see a vast increase in turnout. And so while individuals are more prone to do mail-in ballot, those are people that have already been voting. And so we want to continue to encourage individuals to vote. And we also want to let you know that, yes, just because you voted in June, you do have to vote again. Those results were just for the primary, but this is really who determines who will represent us after November. And so now is the time to ensure that you vote. While your individual may have won in June, they are not guaranteed a win in November. And so that's why it's important during this time that you actually go out and vote during either early voting, mail-in ballot, or on election day. And just a reminder that on election day, which is November 8th, you must go to your polling location. So you can't just go to any location. Now, if you do go to a different location, they'll either send you to where you're supposed to go, or they'll give you what's called a provisional ballot. And what that means is we don't want you going there fighting, saying, I know I'm registered. Why am I getting a provisional ballot? That's not the time to fight and argue. They'll give you a receipt once you get a provisional ballot. And what they'll do is they'll just ensure that you receive the correct ballot and that your vote will be counted. It just might not be counted that day. And so I had that happen at one of the polling locations by my home, where an individual got upset and she just decided not to vote. We never want you to turn away. Please ensure that you don't leave without voting, no matter which location you go to. And I'll stop there. Once again, thank you for joining us on today, and I look forward to the dialogue.
That is absolutely wonderful information. People don't know that. Matter of fact, I received my absentee ballot in the mail this week. So I'm ready and geared up, charged up, ready to vote. You know, in previous shows, Mr. Ropes and I talked about the fact that my father was a politician in North Carolina. And so I met many politicians growing up, and I was always informed of the issues. And so as I grew up and had a family, I made sure I did the same thing for my children. And that's what my child and the children I came into contact with. And that is something we talked about on previous shows. Now, what is the age limit to be able to register and vote in this election?
Yeah, great question, Dr. Dula. And I'm going to answer that, but I'm also add some information as well. So you can register as early as the age of 16. And so though you may not be able to vote, though you cannot vote until you are 18, you can register at 16. So if your child or loved one is not registered and they are over the age of 16, please have them do so, even if they might not be able to vote during this election. I do also want to put out for those individuals that are 16 and over, one thing that we're in dire need of is poll workers, individuals that are willing to work election day or during early voting. They will get paid. The individuals who are under 18 gets paid the same amount as individuals over 18. So everybody gets paid the same amount. I want to say it's about a little over $100 for the day, about $150 for the day. So if you do that for all, you can do that for all 8 days of early voting, as well as the election day. Schools are closed on election day, so students who are over 16 can actually work that day and make a little extra money. And so we definitely are in need of what they call election judges at those polling sites. One thing we found actually on election day is the fact that some of our polling locations did not actually open on time because we did not have enough staff. And we have a large number of polling locations that need to be covered. And so we're hoping that individuals can actually volunteer their time and their talents to actually become election judges during that time. And if you know of anybody that is interested, please have them go to either the Maryland Board of Elections website or Prince George's Board of Elections website. And we definitely want them to volunteer their time, although it's paid, but it's just a stipend. But it's something that we definitely hope individuals will continue to participate in, because that's also part of the election process.
Great information. So all those listening out in Cyberland, if you know of a child that is eligible to vote within the next 2 years, at 16, they're eligible to register to vote now at 16, and then vote at 18.
That's right.
Great information. That's exactly what we want to convey to the public, Mr. Robeson. And, let's go back to Dr. King's saying that as a citizen in this country, these United States of America, if we are going to set the moral and the spiritual tone for our nation, then we must be actively involved in the political process. And it begins with getting out, knowing who your candidates are, looking at their history, seeing if their ideas mesh with your ideas. And on election day, go out and vote. In previous elections, there have been times when the polls registered someone 20 and 30 and 40% ahead. Folks sit back home and say, look, we got this election. We have this, Dr. Dula.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm going to vote or not. That is one of the most idiotic reasons I've heard in my life, because what you're doing is you're casting a vote for the opponent. Because one absence at the voting poll can be a plus for the other person running. So if we are going to address the rising tide of discontent, the rising tide of misinformation, and the rising tide of division in our nation as well, we as citizens must mark the calendar and go out and vote on election day, or get that ballot mailed in so that we can do our civic duty. And we'll be right back.
For your mind, indie for your spirit. It's Wild Radio, so you know you're gonna hear it. Whether you like to spit it or you just wanna feel it. Forever indie, baby, and you know we got the spirit. Indie for your mind, indie for your spirit. Indie for your mind, indie for your spirit. Indie for your mind, indie for your spirit. Indie media for the indie spirit on Wild Radio.
Election is 30 days away. Is that right, Mr. Robeson?
Yes, sir. November 8th. And Dr. Dula, can I just share something? You mentioned those individuals that don't engage, feel like they, the election is won. In recent history, here in Prince George's County alone, we've seen individuals that have won elections by 55, 35 votes. And so, we can count on our hand 35 people that we know just in our vicinity. So imagine if those individuals who voted, the elections really could have gone a different way. 55 people, that's nothing. And so we really want to make sure individuals know that elections are not already determined when people go. It's not already determined who's going to win. but every individual needs to participate because it really does make a difference in what takes place. So I definitely want to hit on the fact that it does make a difference when you actually go out and participate, especially these local positions, because that's really where the rubber meets the road. Because we've heard complaints around the grass cutting issues in our county, the litter pickup, all of those individuals that have oversight of that are locally elected. It's not Congress that's making the decision. It's not the president, but it's those local elected officials that are there hearing our concerns and able to respond and meet those needs. So I definitely want to let you all know that this does make a difference when we participate.
You know, I don't know what more I can say to capture the attention of our people, because it's much too quiet. And people are telling me, calling my home, sending me emails, sending me texts, sending me Facebook. And I'm not on Facebook, but look here, OG. It's much too quiet out here. We don't see the advocacy taking place to really rally the people in the streets and tell them this is very important, like happened with Mr. Obama. And I tell them, well, this is one of those cases where we're going to have to spread a message of personal conviction. It's President Roosevelt who said we need to vote based on our beliefs, vote on our convictions, vote on what we truly believe in, but vote. And see, when we sit home and we let others vote for us, well, we're doing everything we can to make sure that the opposing person gets into office. I mentioned earlier the Revolutionary War. Do you know the Revolutionary War was vote because of taxation without representation? They didn't have a voice. Right. That all the guidelines came from somewhere else. That how you're going to be taxed came from somewhere else. Leadership came from somewhere else. Governors came from somewhere else across the pond. And so it took a war to say, oh no, enough is enough. Well, I'm telling our voters right now, Mr. Robeson, enough is enough. But I have to go out here and put on my hat, Dula X. Look for the Dula X. Look for the brand near you.
That's good.
Yeah, because, we don't know where we've come from. And, I'm going into Mr. X, Malcolm X now. We don't know our surname. We don't know if we were kings and queens. I just said in the last show, I might have been a king somewhere else. I might have been a prince.
Yeah.
Call me Prince Dula X, because we have a message that we have to get across. And if we have to go there, we have to go there. Look at it this way. If we're going to vote our beliefs and our convictions, then we have to know what our beliefs and our convictions are. What do you stand for? Didn't Dr. King said if there's not something that you're worth giving your life for, then your life is in vain? Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what I stand for, Mr. Robeson. I stand for making sure that I use my civic right to vote so that I can leave the world a little bit better for my children and my grandchildren in the future than I inherited. See, because I came along, I'm a World War II baby, born in the 1940s. That greatest generation who fought a war against Nazis and fascism, the Klan, so that everybody could have a measure of justice and equality in this nation. I grew up in segregation. I grew up when it wasn't popular to go to vote. I rode on the back of the bus, but I was also part of that 1960s civil rights movement. People look at me now and say, Dr. Dula, I want to have what you have. I said, let me tell you something. I marched. I sat in. I was on the first school bus on the first day of desegregation in North Carolina. It wasn't pretty. I saw the Civil Rights Act of 1965 sign sitting beside my Uncle Felix, who made me sit down. He was a World War II veteran. Said, come in and look at President Johnson sign this bill. I went on to join the military, become a military officer because of those men and women in the community that said, you are somebody, don't let anybody else tell you you're not. But at 18, my father took me to register to vote. And I've been voting ever since because my father voted, my father's father voted, even though the men of the community escorted the seniors to the voting polls so they would not be harassed in a country that was conceived in liberty and justice for all. I came up on the rough side of the mountain, but when I got to the top, I said, I'm going to reach back and pull somebody else up. So as an American, we fought a Revolutionary War. People of color had to go through 3/5 of a person. And they had to go through Brown versus the Board of Education, where the Supreme Court said that segregated schools were illegal. Where we had to go through Plessy versus Ferguson, where it said blacks were just property. This is the history that our kids can be receiving. So I think we need to get away from critical race theory and think about critical election theory. Because when we think about critical election theory, we look through all the lies and the gerrymandering and the redistricting to put blacks all in one category, so it dilutes their power in the United States Congress or in the General Assembly or in a local area. So see, Mr. Robeson, you got me started, and I know we have a question. What's the question, producers? I'm fired up this morning. I mean, where's my X? I'm ready to put it on.
It says, what are some of the ways we can unify as a community around voting? And that's a great question. I'll just jump in and just say that one thing, so right after this, you can see I need a haircut. Right after this, I'm going to the barbershop. But what am I doing is I'm trying to get my beard like you, Dr. Dula. But one thing that I'm doing as soon as I leave here is I'm taking information to the barbershop as to voting, what's going on in the community as far as voting days, what I just shared with you all, where they can register to vote, how, when early voting is and that type of thing. And that's the first step, is sharing it with our neighbors and friends. And that's how you unify. You go from there. A lot of us are part of these different organizations and groups, and we talk about everything under the sun, but we won't make sure that individuals are registered to vote. And just as important as it is for us to share, to ensure that we have a healthy lifestyle, we also have to have a healthy social lifestyle where we're engaged socially, politically, and actively around these issues that pertain to us as individuals. Because really, if we want to talk about how we want to change a standard of living, ensuring that we have better care for our children, and our grandchildren and our seniors, then that's where it starts, is really at the ballot box. So that's how you unify, is part of those organizations. Asking the question, what are we doing around voting? That's the first step. And I've had multiple organizations reach out to me, and I'm glad to see these organizations, which are known for their social activity, are also concerned about their political activity. And that means a lot to me to know that that is a priority for all organizations. And so we as individuals should take it seriously. Just like back in the day, when your grandparents used to get you up, or grandmama or mama used to get you up for church, the same thing needs to happen on election day, is you get them up and take your loved ones to the ballot box, whether they're old enough to vote or not, because when you ingrain it in child, train up a child in the way they should go, when they're young, they won't depart from it. And so that's something that I take seriously. I take my children with me to vote. And so I believe that all of us should do the same for our loved ones as well.
Absolutely right on point. As I said earlier, my father taught me, and even though I spent 30 years in the United States Air Force, and I'm a Vietnam veteran fighting for the rights and liberty of our people and those across the world, I can tell you this: the seeds that my father planted in me are growing still today within me, and I'm passing it on to others. And so the question was, what can we do? Well, I have a surefire way to make sure that we get this thing off on the right foot, because we only have 30 days to make a difference. If you sit home and vote at 20 and 25 and 30 and 35%, you will not get the choice that you want in the office, because there are others outside that Baltimore, Washington corridor that do not think like you think. Mm-hmm. And so you got to put on your mindset, that to the left and to the right, There may be a lot of folks that don't think like I do, and they may be closet thinkers. But right now, the power is in our hand because we are the majority in this county, in this state, and in this county. So we have to inspire others. I can't say it enough. Inspire others to vote. Let's move from agitate, agitate, agitate. That was Frederick Douglass is saying. Let's accept an OG Dr. Dula saying of let's advocate, advocate, advocate.
Yeah.
Because that's the new trend. That's the vision for today. We're moving from the dream to the vision.
Yeah.
Because with every dream, there has to be followed by a vision. So the 2022 vision must be to advocate, advocate, advocate. How do we get people to see the cause? Well, first of all, I suggest that you join your civic association so that your voice can be heard. Dr. W.B. Du Bois said, stand tall to be heard. So you have to stand up and speak and encourage your neighbors, encourage your friends, let them know that 26% just won't do.
Yeah.
It just won't. Once you join your civic association, think about creating a block of neighbors so that you can do things in your neighborhood. Don't think about the county. Think about the neighborhood, because all politics is local. It starts with you, the individual. Start your own block of voters coming together to advocate in your community. We have that where I live, and I'm not going to tell you who started it because it sounds biased. But the point is that you have to start with yourself. Join your civic association. Create a block of people that will help you advocate the fact that voting has to take place, and join the rising tide of voter elevation instead of voting misconception.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know that Hillary may have won by 2 million votes, but it's where the votes came from that matter.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need to start getting back to see the rising tide of voting power and really help escalate that. And we'll talk more about that when we come back after our break. But I'm going to get my X hat. I don't know where I put it. It's somewhere. I'm going to have to find that X hat. We'll be right back.
Did you know that BWCC is now streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio? Yep, that's right. Go to any of these platforms and search Black Women Connecting Communities. That's Black Women Connecting, CONNEXTING communities. Follow us and add us to your list of favorite podcasts.
Hey guys, this is Ty Flood, founder of the Awesome Women of Empowerment Group, also known as the AW Group. And the AW Group is a mental health organization and support group geared towards providing various resources, wellness programs, and encouragement to women and families who are living with a mental health condition. Connect with us by visiting theawgroup.org or follow us on Instagram or Facebook under @theawgroup. That's THEAWE Group.
Once again, back to that philosophy of advocating and join the rising tide of voter elevation rather than voter suppression. When we look at it, and someone called me and said, what was Plessy versus Ferguson? I mentioned it briefly, but Plessy versus Ferguson was an 1896 Supreme Court case in which the court ruled that racial segregation laws did not violate the United States Constitution. Racial segregation laws did not violate the U.S. Constitution as long as the facilities for each race were equal in quality, a doctrine that became known as separate but equal. Now, as I look back at the news that I've heard this week, Mr. Robeson, I see down in Alabama and other states, Texas and you name it, mostly GOP states, where voting districts are being redrawn. They're being redrawn to put the majority of blacks into one district so that their voting power will be diluted. And so when we look at voting across America and we look at voting here at home, we have to look at it with our eyes open. So what happens when our voting power is diluted? And we have seen in recent history that when our voting power is diluted, we do not get the court actions in our favor. We do, because courts are appointed by those in power. We do not win majority of the things that we would like to win. And so when we don't vote, we lose. So when you look at Separate but Equal in 1896 and Separate but Equal, that's riding on the back of the bus, going to the back of the establishment, not being served here, not being served there. I equate the redistricting to make sure that blacks are all lumped into one area with that law, separate but equal. Let's keep them over here and not let them get into the mainstream of America. Mm-hmm. Now, this is history. I mean, I can sit here and talk about critical race theory all day long, but I do believe that history should be taught as it happened, not as somebody wrote it. And we know that that's very important, because as we vote, we change the course of history. Can I say future history? Because our words matter. Our vote matters. And when we sit home, you have no right to complain because you weren't involved in the process.
Yeah.
And so that's why I get really upset when I hear people tell me I'm not going to vote because my mama didn't vote, my mama didn't vote, and I ask them, do you think it's about time to break the mold? Do you think it's about time that your voice was heard? Do you think it's about time you stood on my shoulders, because I stood on the World War II shoulder, Greatest Generation shoulders, and those that and they stood on the shoulders of those who came before them? So let's say this. I don't care who you are in America. If you want to see America continue to enjoy the freedoms and democracy of life, liberty, and happiness for everyone, regardless who you are, it's important that you get out, that you advocate, and that you vote. And that's what's important in America, because we live in a republic. And people say, well, when I say, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with life and liberty and justice for all, she said, what am I really saying? Let me break it down to you like this. What you're really saying is that I live in a nation where democracy prevails, not a great experiment, but a democracy that has proven to be the best in the world. With the oldest constitutional democracy. We are the oldest constitutional democracy in the world, where we elect our representatives to care for our general welfare. That's a republic. To elect those that will represent you and look after you and your general welfare. That's what it is in a nutshell. So when you don't vote, you're not putting people in office that have your beliefs, your opinions, and may not be looking out for your general welfare. So I think it's vital that you do that. And if you still don't get the message, you contact this station and I'll come and talk to you, your community, your mama, your daddy, your grandmama, your granddaddy, your children, whoever it is. Because I honestly believe that we have got to get out and advocate and agitate and advocate and agitate until people see the need to be involved. What do you think, Mr. Roberson?
No, you're definitely right, Dr. Dula. I, as you were sharing, one thing I realized is the fact that, well, it's been proven that when we talk about that 35% that turnout, if individuals, people who are in power, people who remain elected, are banking on is low voter turnout, because that ensures that they remain in office. And I'll give you a prime example. I have a friend who just won the primary in Tennessee for state senate. And so with that, her district, it was redistricted. So it was a new district. It was inclusive of younger individuals, but it also had a large population of those who had been voting for the same individuals for years. And so what happens is it was really her as a newcomer to the stage, going against those individuals who had been in office for years, who had decided to return to elected office. And so with that, she did put in the work. And one thing that was sure was that the fact that she engaged those individuals who had not voted previously. And that's what really wanted for her. And that really shows the difference individuals can make when they're actually engaged. It's not because of those who have been voting, but it's the ones who get newly engaged, where now we have the representation of a woman. For one, she was the only woman that ran in that for that seat, which we need more of in our elected offices. But not only that, she was an individual who also represented the demographic of the district. And so I think that's important as we continue to find reasons to engage. We must let individuals know, if you see that, you believe that these same individuals will remain elected if you don't engage, that is true. But if you do engage, imagine what would happen and how the district would change and how your representation would change if you do get involved. I was also thinking about, in North Carolina, there's a Senate race. There's a woman, she was on the Supreme Court basically for North Carolina, and now she's running for Senate. And so with that race, there's really an opportunity, one, for a woman senator, secondly, for the first Black woman to represent North Carolina, and for that representation to take place. And so the need, though, is for individuals to actually get out and vote. And so we really have an opportunity there to have representation in North Carolina. And so that's something that I've been paying close attention to, and I'm hopeful for, just because she's a great candidate and one that really, really demonstrate how we as individuals, once we get involved, can actually make a difference. And so those are just some examples. We see the same thing in Florida with Val Demings running against Marco Rubio, how if individuals actually get out and vote, it really can make a difference. And so that's what we're banking on. It's not banking on the fact of individuals who already are involved in the race, but are involved in voting, but it's the individuals who don't vote that we really care about and really want involved in these elections. And so that's my concern. That's who I want to see get involved. And you'll see that those individuals, as we heard, Joe Biden shared that he's going to pardon all those individuals with nonviolent marijuana possession. That only took place just because of the rising number of individuals who cared about that. At one point, you would never hear a candidate admit, as we saw in Louisiana, the senatorial candidate who's smoked marijuana right on his campaign ad, and shared how a disproportionate number of African Americans and people of color are jailed for possession in comparison to those Caucasian brothers and sisters. And so this is now a new thing, not new, it's been coming for a while. But the fact is, it only takes place because you have individuals who've been advocating, because there was a point in time when you would never admit, as we know, during the Bill Clinton years, this is something that everybody would deny if they ever were in office. And now you have not only candidates admitting that they've used it, but also those that are willing to pardon those individuals. And we know that it comes over time, but it also comes with work. And so it doesn't just come just because we complain, but it also because we, as you stated before, we advocate, we agitate, and we engage on those issues. So I find that important. And I just want to share that the more that we get involved, the more we partake in this process, the more we decide that we're going to make noise, means the more the change can actually take place. And I'll stop there.
Well, but those were very, very impacting words. People need to listen attentively when people in the process speak, so that they can also gauge what they're saying and apply their thoughts to what is being said. and oftentimes we hear, but we don't listen. And listening, I often say, is being able to draw back up from the memory banks valuable information when you need to process it to make good decisions. So as we move forward, I want to say once again that we are really, really confronting a rising tide of change in America, and right here at home. We do not want to see our people, our residents, our citizens sit home and watch the world pass us by. We want to be able to maintain our communities. You know, some places have been gerrymandered. We have seen the seniors who have inherited property be pushed out to other places because of people that were elected to office that did not represent their concerns.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen the gerrymandering take place. We have seen the redistricting take place that has been a disadvantage. You know, and I often tell people that if you want to know an example of how to vote mattered, it mattered in the election of 1860 when Abraham Lincoln was running for office, and he was running quite naturally. He was a Republican, but when I think about those that voted for him and the history that followed, if he had not won, the United States could have been divided into three parts: the USA states, the
Mm-hmm.
Confederate States of America states, and the Republic of Texas. That's just history. But the vote of 1860 determined the direction of America for generations to come. And to this day, we're not the USA divided states. We're not the Confederacy. We're not the Republic of Texas. We are the United States of America, where our republic and our ideas in a republic reign supreme. We elect our representatives. We elect our representatives that reflect our moral convictions and our spiritual convictions. And we should be getting that, passing that on to our children. Because if the nation is to sustain itself, it must sustain itself due to the history being passed from generation to generation to generation, along with encouraging them to be advocates as well as agitate when necessary to make a difference right here in their communities, in their state, and in the nation where they live. What do you think about that?
I definitely agree, Dr. Dula.
And as we look back, I want to give a plug in also for WOW Radio, because I tell you, without WOW Radio, we could not do this. And you can also find us on www.wowradio.net / Let's Talk Politics. And please, once again, I'll say that is www.wow, W-O-W, I left it out, wowuradio.net / Let's Talk Politics. So that's wowuradio.net. And I tell you what, this has been a great program today. I'm just so very happy that you, Mr. Roberson, could join with us. A lot of valuable information has been shared. Once again, to let the public know what you said, other than getting out to vote, you can vote at 18 years of age. You can still request your absentee ballot. And the key is, as soon as you get it, fill it out and get it back in as quickly as you can. And you also said that election day is Tuesday, November the 8th.
That's right.
Anything you'd like to add to that?
7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And if you have a ballot with Kent Roberson on it, make sure you mark that as well. Don't send it back without voting for Kent. And we appreciate you, Dr. Dula. Seriously. Thank you for the opportunity. It means a lot to be invited. Election judges are needed, as you saw on the screen. You can follow me on Instagram at Kent_Roberson. Check out my website, kentroberson.org. We'd love to have you be a part of the campaign if you're in the Prince George's County area. If you're not, you can definitely donate to our campaign. And I just wanted to share also on October 15th, a week from this Saturday. So next Saturday, Westmore, along with all statewide candidates, Anthony Brown, Brooke Learman, will all be at a breakfast. You're invited to come that the Democratic Central Committee is hosting at Martin's Crosswinds from 9:30 to about 11:30. Feel free to grab a ticket. You can go to pgcdcc.org to grab a ticket. And we'd love to meet you in person. Definitely look forward to it. It'll be a great time for us to meet all of our candidates because you'll see all of them from across the county there, along with our county executive, Angela Alsobrook. So please try to get out. If not, you will see many opportunities to serve, to get involved, to meet those candidates. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at kentaroberson@gmail.com. You can email me anytime, kentaroberson@gmail.com. Thank you once again to Let's Talk Politics, Dr. Dula, and Mr. John Bailey in his absence. Thank you.
Well, I want to say that we are very, very fortunate to have you, and we wish you the best as you move forward. And as we continue to talk about the rising tide, we're talking about hope for today, well into tomorrow, because the rising tide all depends on us as county citizens, as state citizens, as American citizens, getting out to make sure that we agitate, advocate, and encourage other people to vote. And right. So November the 8th is the date. If you have any questions, please contact us. We would love to talk with you, talk with your communities. Just let us know, because, I often say that TV and radio is a silo. It's nice to talk on it, but you really have to get out and touch the people where they live, work, and raise their families to make a difference. So if you want to really, really see a difference in the community where you live, be involved in your civic association, start your community advocacy group, talking about politics and history, and then you be the change that you want to see. Thank you, Mr. Roberson. We want to thank Wild Radio and all of our listeners for joining in, and we wish you a great, great weekend and a bright future. Thank you, and have a great day.
Indie for your mind, indie for your spirit. It's Wild Radio, so you know you're gonna hear it.